Welcome to the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast on Mintwave Radio and all podcast platforms. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist or healer with an online program and would like to find out how to grow your business whilst having fun podcasting, go to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free. Let's dive into today's episode.
Welcome to the show. And today I have the lovely Karen Davies. So you've got two Karens today, who is a passive profit mentor. And she helps female entrepreneurs create impact, influence, and income through creating and selling profitable online courses. And she is also a fellow podcaster. So her podcast is called Digitally She Does It. So check that out on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts on. And her goal is really to inform other business owners about other ways to scale their business, generate income, and really support more people by selling their brilliance online. Absolutely love that, Karen. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So what was the inspiration behind it all? Would you like to share with the listeners how you came to be doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, of course. I, in another life, was a graphic designer, and I did a branding and web design. And actually, when I started my business back in 2017, that's what I was working on. I was building a branding studio, and so I was offering creative services, and it was fabulous. It was all very good. We were networking in person. It was pre-lockdown where life was great, and I was picking up clients and doing all these creative projects. But very early on in my business, I was creating digital products, and I think back in 2018 I actually created my first online course, and it was a branding course because I wanted to really break down the understanding about branding, and I wanted to give a roadmap that they could follow, so anybody starting out in business that didn't have a budget to invest in a branding studio could essentially do it themselves, but in an effective way. And so I saw firsthand at that point how effective it was to be able to package up my knowledge and my skills and be able to present it in an online course. And then lockdown happened in 2020. And at that point, I was running a lot of projects. And I think even, I counted it was something like I had 15 projects on the go, and I was burnt out. And then lockdown, things started to go on hold. I also had things that were happening that were making me question whether what I was doing in my branding studio was sustainable long term, because it required a lot of me. I had to be there a lot of the time in order to work on these projects and to get them over the line. And although I had built a team, it was still me leading them. So then I was still going networking, everything moved online, and the conversations that I then started having with other fellow entrepreneurs, other female entrepreneurs, started to change, because it became very much about how they weren't able to make money because they were not able to see their clients in person, and so business was essentially had stopped. And that was really interesting to me, because even though my branding studio was being affected because budgets were put on hold and marketing tends to get put on hold when things in the economy happen, I was making money. I was selling my digital products and I was selling my online course. And it just started to kind of plant that seed about how sustainable it is as business owners to run businesses on our own, because if things happen and we're not available to work, life gets in the way, we have to take time out, how are we going to continue to make money so that we can keep the lights on? So that became almost a theme for 2020 for me, because I was caught up in this idea of, okay, as entrepreneurs, we often start selling our services. That's how we make our money. But we were in this really unusual time and things were happening outside of our control. And naturally, that was then affecting income. And so what I decided to do was I put together a very simple framework for a program. And I thought, you know what would be brilliant if I could teach people how to do what I've done in a really effective way that can start getting them making money. That means that they don't have to rely on clients to bring in that revenue. And so that's what I did. And so by the November of 2020, I was working with, I think it was about 12 women at the time. I was helping them create their online courses. And then from there, I just started to move over into this space because I fell in love with it. It all came together. I realized how powerful it is to be able to have other offers in our businesses, but also to be able to share what it is we know in a really effective way that creates that impact and serves people at a deeper level. And so that was really the start of my journey.
Love that. That's, as we were talking earlier about having the freedom as well to go wherever you want. This is another bonus of doing this, isn't it? Rather than having to be somewhere in person, you can still package all of your knowledge, all of your experience, all of your expertise into something that is going to give value to somebody and they can digest it, if you like, wherever they are too. So it's an absolute bonus. What do you think? Because it's funny, isn't it? I deal with a lot of Americans and this sort of concept has been around for a lot longer. And it does seem to be, it's funny you talk about the lockdown and it's interesting that there was definitely a switch in people.
Yeah.
I presume everybody was forced onto Zoom, whereas sort of Zoom was a normal part of the business. But I think for a lot of the guys here in the UK, they'd been almost avoiding. People were a little bit nervous about Zoom until something horrendously bad happened. Do you think, though, that weirdly, all the negative aspects that came from that horrendous time, actually there's a lot of positives that have come out the other end of it?
100%. Or I think what happened was that lockdown, that period of time accelerated what was going to always be inevitable. We were always going to move into this digital space. And I think what COVID did was it made us look at our businesses differently because we had a choice taken away from us. We had to, if we wanted to keep going, we had to figure out a way that we could run our businesses that didn't require us to be in physical person with the people we were working with. And so Zoom became an obvious choice because of how easy it is to be able to jump on and see that person through a screen. And so I just believe it was always going to happen. And it's just been an evolution in our time. So, because it's always been there, it's just the fact that as humans, we stick to what we know, we stay comfortable, and seeing people in person and having those in-person meetings were just a norm of everyday business life. So I think COVID literally it was almost like something came along, pulled the rug from underneath all of us, and we had to figure out a way to keep going. And the online space became that next level thing that we all started to get involved in.
And so for you, you're a passive profit mentor. Would you like to share with the listeners a little bit about what it is you do and how you help female entrepreneurs, grow their business?
Yeah, of course. So for a long time, I was talking about online courses, and I do, and I predominantly help females and men. I tend to work predominantly with females, create online courses, but I also sell digital products. And sometimes people forget that they have this stuff in their businesses that they can make money from. And we live in a very connected world now where we have lots of tools and apps and things available to us that we can then use to make money. So even though I do predominantly focus on online courses because that's what people have come to me for, I also teach people how to create digital products. So things like ebooks and guides and cheat sheets and checklists and things that you can sell. There are platforms out there where you can have something that you're using in your business to make your life easier, to give you time back, that you can sell and make money from. And I do that. Last April, I was out in Florida with my family and we were at one of the Universal parks, and I was literally getting sales come through my phone based on the products that I have available to buy. And it's such an amazing feeling because I'm making money when I'm not at my desk, and it's passive because I've built it once and I'm selling it on repeat. And I have products that I sell a lot, more of, but it is passive income. And so rather than just focusing on online courses, which obviously are a great source of passive income, there are other things that you can create as well. And sometimes people aren't ready to create an online course right from the get-go. Some people need to figure out they want to make money in other ways that kind of builds up that confidence to create an online course. And so often what I help clients with is figuring out what they have available already that they can repurpose and sell, because it isn't always about creating a lot of work for yourself. It's just about being smart with stuff that you have available. But the onus and the focus is on about passive, because we want to create money in our businesses, but equally we want to have time back so that we can use our businesses as a vehicle towards the life that we actually want. And how better way to do that than to create passive income in your business?
Brilliant. And it's a way of just working with what you have right now, and then you can go on more. Because yes, I agree. It's for some people to create a whole course. It's almost, and I get it because I've felt like this in the past, where the overwhelm of everything that you've got to do, and it almost puts you off even starting. But actually, when you actually break it down and just do the bits that you need to do, it doesn't have to be so hard. For you, why do you think? What else do you think puts people off or holds them back from actually stepping out and creating something that is going to give them this passive income?
I think knowledge around what it is they need to do. I think often people have ideas, but they don't know how to bring those ideas to life. They don't know what's involved. They don't know how to take an idea and create something off the back of it, and whether their idea will even work. I think tech is a big obstacle. I think tech brings a lot of overwhelm. There is so much out there. The e-learning market has grown exponentially since lockdown. It is a growing market. So even though in lockdown, obviously, a lot of people moved into the online space and consumed probably more courses than ever, it is a market that's growing. And I think because of that, we have more tech that is being released constantly. So there's new tools and things that you think you have to adopt in your business in order to make something happen. And so I think they're the things that can often stop people in their tracks. And then the other thing is not knowing how to sell the thing that they've created. They don't know how to sell it. They don't know what strategies to implement, what's going to be effective, how to plan something out, how to go through a launch, all of that. So I think there are a lot of hurdles that people have to jump over in order to have something that they can then sell. And often what is required is just some knowledge, because you don't know what you don't know until you know it, which is why I run my masterclasses and I do what I do. And I actually give a lot for free, because it's about educating people into what is actually needed. And you don't have to chuck a load of money at something. You can create an online course in a really cheap way. And the tech out there can be minimal. It's like with anything, we can make it as easy or as complicated as what we want to make it.
Oh,
But it's just understanding what's involved in the process and what you do need to do, but what necessarily you don't need to do, and all of that stuff as well.
yeah, there's, like you say, it's mind boggling now. With the emergence of AI, you're just like, oh my goodness. So you can
Yeah.
create a whole course and it's not even your voice. It's madness. But yes, you're right. I think so many people avoid doing it because of that tech overwhelm. And yet I know people that have sold multiple six figures through courses where they've simply sent a Google document, information, a
Yeah.
video. There you go. You're right. It doesn't have to be so complicated. So for people working with you, so what is your process? What is your process? How do you help people go through this to get an online course at the end of it that they can market and sell?
Yeah, so I have a very simple framework, and it's something that I have fine-tuned over the years. As I said, in the early years, I created my very first online course, and it took me ages, and I had to figure out a lot. And you have to go through that steep learning curve to figure things out when you're doing it on your own. What I've done is I've developed my own framework, and it's a 5-step framework, and I just guide people through it. And then I provide the support and the training to help them. But even before they come into to working with me, I have lots of free stuff that they can consume and go through, because once they have clarity around what it is they want to achieve, what their idea is, why they want to do it, like what the impact is going to be for their business and how that's going to help them in their life, perspective is a lot different. Because when we do things and we're doing it because we feel we need to do it, we're less committed because it doesn't go deep. And so what I try and do with my clients is that I get them to really understand that you want to create an online course. It can be really beneficial for your business, but what are your reasons behind it? So that they connect on a more cellular level to why they're doing this, because it does require time, does require energy, and people are busy. Life gets in the way. And so when things go a little bit sideways and you're dealing with all the things, the kids, the house, the business, just everyday challenges, you want to have that motivation and that focus to get what you're doing over the line. And so by really connecting on a deeper level, you'll stay focused, you'll stay motivated. And also by putting a plan in place as well. What is feasible for you? If you are chipping away at something on a weekly basis, you're going to consistently move yourself forward. And I think something that tends to happen is people tend to work in bursts. They'll spend 1 week when their energies are high doing a whole day, but then they won't touch it for 3 weeks and they'll lose that momentum. So then that's part of what I do, is I work with people to get that plan in place so they know essentially what it is that they can manage on a consistent basis to get themselves to a place where they're actually getting their online course done. So it doesn't, the planning, the creation, the building, the course, all of that I help them with, but it's the stuff outside of that, which is the time planning and managing their energy and really understanding what it's about. That's the stuff that I think really makes a difference.
Love that. And so important that I haven't heard anybody else actually talk about, because as women, we have our monthly cycle, which means there are certain parts of the cycle where we are more creative, and there'll be certain parts of the cycle actually we maybe want to be doing less, so you can fit in the specific tasks of what needs to be done around you, rather than being forced to do stuff when maybe it's not the best time for you to be doing that side of your business. I find that whole aspect so fascinating, and I wish I actually knew more about it for myself, but I just find it so interesting that this is what is going on, and that there will be certain places. I suppose the problem with me now, I don't know what my cycle's doing because I've gone beyond. It's too late.
It's funny you should say that, because I am in the early stages of perimenopause. And it's in the internet. I haven't really spoken about this publicly, but oh my God, you talk about the cycle, and absolutely, there are fluctuations throughout the month, isn't there? But sometimes I wake up and I'm very creative, I'm very design led. So I'm in my creative zone and I'm absolutely smashing it, doing whatever it is I'm doing. But there are times where I have low energy, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I'm anxious. I'm just not in that frame of mind at all to even think about my business, because I'm barely hanging on by a thread. Because that's the thing about perimenopause, is that now that cycle feels like there's a real wide span between feeling amazing and then feeling like really rubbish. And so what we have to do, I think, as female entrepreneurs, is I think first and foremost, we have to recognize it's happening. This is a stage of life and we're all going through it. And I've had so many conversations of late of friends and that going through perimenopause or menopause, and they are really struggling with it. But I think recognizing this is a thing and leaning into the fact that we just need to take more time for ourselves and invest in that self-care. Because whatever we create in our businesses is only going to be as good as what our heads are at. And if you're not feeling it, then you take time out and you do not work on it. Like, you have to be really on top of that, I think.
Definitely. I love that. I love that approach. I'm very much, it's okay to have a day off. It's okay to take the morning off, the afternoon off, to just stop for a moment. I think we put so much pressure on ourselves and if you're not feeling it, man, it is just
tough.
Give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. It's okay. It's weird. I'm very fortunate that I haven't really had any of the real, other than, I do get hot, but the way I see it, it's a perk because it doesn't get hot in the UK. So it's just, I haven't felt the cold in the winter. So it's a perk at the moment, right? Until it gets bearably uncomfortable. But so I'm going with it. I'm just accepting that, okay, at the moment, things are okay. But yes, I'm really noticing. It's funny. Maybe it's because I was made aware through a podcast guest. I had no idea about this cycle thing and how it actually affected women. So sometimes you think, is that because now I know I'm looking out for it? But yes, it's funny that I can see it more clearly.
Yeah.
So to the listeners out there, don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself a
100%.
break.
100%. And always remember as well, when you're creating things in your business, you're going through a creative process. And cut me in half. I'm a designer first and foremost, but that, to be in a creative space where your ideas are flowing and things are coming together, and never mind the look of how something looks, but just create it, like giving birth to something, whether it's a service, a product, an online course, whatever. When you have an idea and you're bringing it to life, you're having to go through that creative process. And you can't do that if your head is all over the place and you're getting that brain fog. Or every single month I'm affected by 2 days every month where I have my cramps, I just feel icky, I feel stressed, I feel anxious, and it's almost like something's taken over me and I can't do what I need to do in those days. So I've recently gone back to doing things like swimming and things that are going to support me, and it's amazing how that helps, because that starts to almost, because I feel better, my symptoms tend to then feel better. So we've got to stop putting pressure on ourselves. We have to just go with it sometimes.
Absolutely. And there you go. Self-care. I don't know whether, and obviously because you're working mainly with women, and do you find this, that women, it's self-care is, they consider it a luxury.
Yeah.
Whereas
100%.
you've just shared there, actually, it's critical because it's going to make you feel better, which is going to have a knock-on effect to your whole business. All of that is, I think, and I'm not saying women struggle with that more than men. I'm not saying that, but I know as a woman that I have. struggled with that. Oh, I'll feel guilty if I'm
Yeah.
taking time out to be. But it's important to get the balance, isn't it? So what else do you think? What else do you think is, if there's a listener out there that has not really moved into the digital space, what would you say to try and encourage them to take that step? Because what else do you think could be the one thing that's stopping them from taking that plunge?
What I think is that if you are a service provider and you're currently providing a service, then I want you to just think about, if something happened and you weren't able to be in your business, how would you continue bringing that money in? I sometimes think that we don't go there because we don't want to be confronted with the fact that things could stop and the worst thing could happen, which would obviously affect our income. And for many people, their income that they make from their business supports their life. So we have to be realistic as to the reality of our situation. So the thing about moving into the online space, yes, I know it can be overwhelming, it can be daunting because it's a space that you may not be familiar with. But what I would say is that when you're building a business, you want it to be sustainable and you want it to support your vision and your dreams. And that can't happen if, when you do need time out, you're not being supported. So by stepping into the online space and thinking about how you can monetize your knowledge and packaging it up, whether it's in an online course, a membership, a program, a digital product, whatever that might be, it's a way to create a more robust approach to your business so that your business starts to develop resilience when needed. Because if you have to take time out, and I take time out, I've got young children, I don't do a full working day. Some days I do, sometimes I don't. Often on a Friday afternoon, I will take myself off. I will go and do things like I meet friends for lunch and I have long lunches and I do things that bring joy into my life so that I get to enjoy the thing that I do. And I've been given more time back since I've created my digital products and I've moved into this space. So I just want people to think about what it is they're actually building, what it's actually for, what is the purpose behind it, and what life are they creating for themselves. And if they're finding that they're given a lot of time, a lot of energy to having to respond to clients, their needs, and having to be there in a one-to-one capacity to do that, then thinking about how they can then start to move themselves away so that they can build a more robust business that ultimately they can scale, but that can survive without them should they need to take that time out. Because although, and I really hope COVID never happens again, the one thing COVID did show us was that anything is possible. Who would have thought we would have had a 2-year blip where we'd be confined to our homes? If you'd said that to me, I would have just been, no, that would have been ridiculous. That is never going to happen. But it did happen. And because of that, life was affected. So I just think that we need to, if we're going to put time, energy and effort into building something, let's make it work for us rather than us working for our businesses and then getting burnt out, becoming frustrated, becoming disillusioned because we've got no time, we've got no freedom, and we're stuck working with clients that we don't actually want to work with. So it's just another way to approach your business that's going to give you what you need and fill you ultimately with the passion and joy that you started your business with in the first place.
Brilliant. Love that. Absolutely love that. And just so true. Absolutely so true. Karen, what should the listeners do next then if they're interested in, okay, maybe it's time now to take that first step?
Okay, so I have developed a lot of free resources because I do understand the challenges that come with moving into this space. So if this is something that you're thinking about, curious about, you just want to dip your toe in without the commitment, then I have the Digital Creators Hub. It's completely free, but what it is, it's a treasure trove of free resources. It's got guides, it's got templates, I've got a business planning tool in there, and I've got free training that you can go and take that's going to help you start to think about what you can create for your business. And as I said, it's completely free. Now, if you want to go and access it, you just need to head over to my website, www.pink-lemondigital.com/hub, and get yourself signed up, get in there, access all the freebies. And honestly, I've got some real goodness in there. And even from ideas on what to sell. So even if you're somebody I really love this idea of being able to sell what I know, but I don't know what that's going to look like, I've got a resource in there. Go and grab it, and that'll help you to get started.
Fantastic. And if you missed that, check out the show notes. So wherever if you're just listening on a podcast or if you're watching this on YouTube, look below, then all of Karen's details will be in there. So Karen, awesome. Thank you so much for taking your time out today to have a little chat with me.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great. And to the listeners, I will be back next week. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to today's episode on the Podcast Profits Unleashed podcast. If you're a coach, consultant, therapist, or healer who would like to drive sales whilst having fun podcasting, head over to podcastprofitsunleashed.com/free and find out how you can turn your podcast into a sales machine. We'll see you on the next episode.